Welcome to the Lifeline, a production of Simply BJE. The goal of this podcast is to build, inspire, and to empower our listeners through conversations on business, leadership, and mental health. We invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and at www.simplybje.com/the Lifeline. Now, let's tune in for today's episode. Top of the day, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Lifeline. We're your host, life strategist, entrepreneur Bo Powell, social media influencer and owner of the for-real brand Lindsberg Petway, and yours truly, leadership consultant and mental health advocate Barry J. Elliott. You can visit us at www.simplybje.com/the Lifeline on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and now on YouTube. Today, once again, we have guest panelists, Mr. Anthony Downing and Jamiyo. Aaron, we want to welcome you back to continue our conversation that we started our last episode about the P word, not Petway, but porn.
Oh,
and so
you better say the right P word, dog. The right P word.
so Petway, let's hit it.
Well, great conversation last week, gentlemen. But how do we get to where we are today, to the place where porn is so accessible and almost available to anyone who picks up one of these cell phones? How do we get to this place?
I think it was mentioned on the last episode, right? It's money first, right?
Cash rules.
Yeah, so it makes money. Hand over fist makes money. I mean, people, I'm not going to say female solely, but people, male and female, can go in their room, in a basement, in a closet, have a ring light, make some porn, post it.
You're talking about OnlyFans, huh?
Yeah, that's why it's become so accessible. Let's be real, right? In this economy, right, where things cost so much, and you're making $12, $50, $15 an hour at your job, and you can't afford X, Y, Z, A, B, C. If you're willing and you're able, you can get paid for it. So I think that's a reason why. And then the second part, I think, is, we become so desensitized to this thing that you're not judged for it anymore. Like it's not taboo anymore. And so I think those two reasons are reasons why, it's become the way it is today.
With 5 points, and I'm going to give this stat real quick. In September, Pornhub is the 6th most popular website in the world that boasted 5.6 billion views in 1 month. 1 month. Billion.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
It's blocked in Texas, but
wow. Is it?
Yeah, they blocked it in Texas.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's interesting.
Wow.
Not that I was going, it's just news, Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
but I'd agree. I think it's money. I mean, and but quite frankly, hell, even X is Twitter is wild, dude. Yeah. When it comes to, it's porn on there. So I think it's a testament to our cultures, how it's evolved, where it's come to. But if you look over the years, all of us are, older. Well, not all of us, but I know some of us have been around for a little while. We've kind of seen the evolution of it. When we talked about Cinemax and, HBO, and many times sometimes even on regular TV, you can get some really soft porn now, where that was taboo back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So just regular shows on streaming services now have some pretty intense that would have been considered totally out of bounds back in the day. Right. So I think it's just a sign of our culture. And we're all believers here. I think it's a sign that God has kind of been removed steadily over time to where, faith is not a big part of our culture anymore. So I think that's a huge part of how we got here as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I think, I was thinking about, you talked about, you used the word evolution, and I can remember watching reruns of the older shows, black and white TV. And a
Yeah.
lot of times the parents slept in separate beds,
Separate beds,
like
yeah.
Lucy and
I
Ricky.
love losing.
I
Yeah.
Love Lucy, Leave It to Beaver. They slept in different beds and then eventually got in the same bed, but it was still, different. But over the time, it has become normal. And I referenced this on another episode we did, and I was talking about how a friend of mine who said that America makes freedom its God. So, and it's all about whatever makes me feel good, whatever I like. And then you translate to that our culture is really about comfort and convenience, whatever satisfies me. So I think because we have made ourselves and our wants a priority, it's caused us to come to this place.
Yeah. And I think the ages of the people that view it have become younger and younger. I was just reading this that millennials are the likeliest group to view porn and not have a problem with it. Gen Z feel that it's a negative aspect of life. 40% of teens believe that watching porn is not wrong.
Changing the
For,
value system.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, like you
Yeah.
said, with the lack of faith in God, and it's becoming attracted to a much younger generation or more accessible because we had to get a magazine, go look, go somewhere. Now they got privacy screens on their phone and they could be right next to you watching whatever they want to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I was on Facebook one day a few years ago, and one of my Facebook friends said they were leaving their apartment building, and the security guard, a lady, was watching porn at the desk while on the job. No, I can't slide her. Another confession. In my 20s, I got fired from a job because of porn.
Wow.
You had
So,
it bad.
oh yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
Man, you can deliver it on these episodes, man.
Yo, you had it bad,
Oh,
boy.
it was bad. It was bad. That's why, that's why one of the things that I talk to young people about is about preserving their purity because, it's a real thing. And, it's addictive. Pleasure, period, is addictive. And you find yourself one of the things they say about drug addicts is that they're always chasing the next high. And so you can find yourself in porn chasing the next high. Another guy I know on Facebook, he's been very transparent about how God delivered him from pornography. And he said one of the things that he found himself doing was aimlessly scrolling, looking for the next good flick, looking for the next high, So it's just like drugs. And so, I want to pose this question to you guys because one of the things I read in some statistics was that most people, by the time they are 10, I think it's at 80%, by the time they're between 10 and 12, have had some level of exposure to pornography. For women, I think it's 50% by the time they're 13. So, why do you think that porn is so addictive?
I mean, the obvious. I mean, you're looking at an action that one is attracting your senses sexually, and then two, you might not have the means to actually do it.
Hmm.
You can't do it right now. You can't partake in it. Even if you had the ability to go on a date and meet women. So if you're a young child or a kid, this is your opportunity to explore and fulfill those desires that have been sparked up.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think, and then it leads to if you do take it upon yourself, then you have the release and then the satisfaction, and then it becomes more and more addictive.
You guys want to add it?
Yeah, so I mean, we know it's science too, right? It's that dopamine rush, right?
Yeah.
So, that on top of what Mr. Petaway said, on top of the accessibility, and also porn is one of those things where you don't have to be the cool kid to be able to partake in it. And so that's another reason it's like crazy addictive, right? Because you can be the quiet kid in class, at school, never talking to anybody, but you know you got your phone at home, you know you got your computer at home, you know you got, OnlyFans or Pornhub or whatever at home that you could easily access on top of the dopamine rush, on top of being able to relieve yourself and that feeling that you're chasing and that high you're chasing time after time after time after time. And you look up and you in this well that you can't dig yourself out of.
Yeah.
I mean, and ultimately for a man, I have to speak obviously from my point of view would be I love what God has done with the woman's yes. So that the accessibility to that, I mean, you can have the same ends without having to go through the same process of getting to those ends. I can make it plain for you. Let's speak from a married man's point of view. You may not have to coax your wife into, having sex, but you can just go ahead and have that same release from watching a quick video. So ultimately, it appeals to the senses, like both brothers said. So if you can appeal to the senses, that's where the addiction and most addictions that you can think of are something that rouse you up in one of your senses. And sex and porn rouse up almost all of
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, I was just kind of looking at some stuff regarding our topic, and one of the things that came out was that some people use it for a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
They're hurting in some kind of way, shape, form, or fashion, and they use it to cope, trying to just numb the pain. And, this is just one of those ways that when pain is not properly processed, it comes out in ways that are damaging. So I think that's another component to it as far as why porn can become so addictive. As far as the dopamine, that's some of the things I had thought about too, Brother Downing, was, that reward system. It's an immediate reward. But I know a lot of people, when you think about the way our world is shaped, there's a lot of pain that people are dealing with.
Yeah.
A lot of stress that people are dealing with. And when there are no healthy outlets, then it's got to get out some kind of way. And, you do it, you like it. Next thing you know, you in that loop and you can't get out of it. So, but just practically speaking, I mean, why would you guys say porn is so dangerous? Even from a spiritual level, why is it so dangerous?
I was just
believe one of
looking
you
at
gentlemen said it last episode that it puts a level of something that we can't achieve or the average man is not achieving. The expectation, I believe, was the verbiage that was used of in sex and of a partner and of ourselves and in our performance. And that could be dangerous because if you're being more satisfied by the pornography and not your spouse, then now that can cause a division, both in the conscious and the subconscious, because you're not realizing that you're trying to hold that your partner to a standard that is cinemized.
Wow.
So that can be very dangerous for a relationship aspect.
That's profound, sir. Cinemized.
Took one of your words.
I'll say, a real danger in it, So let's take the people who can't afford it per se in one bucket. But let's take all the people who can afford it, right? As long as you can afford it and it's not, you're not crashing out your bank account over it, porn is one of those things that nobody will ever know that you're addicted to.
Wow.
If you're addicted to crack cocaine, somebody's gonna know it. If you're addicted to alcohol and you're drunk, someone's gonna know it. Most every other thing that you can be addicted to, someone will know it, right? Someone will call you out on your mess. You'll be messing up and destroying this and that. But porn is one of those things where you can literally work, function, all these things, and no one will ever know it by looking at you that you're addicted to porn.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
One of the things I was reading, it says compulsive porn use can damage mental health and interpersonal skills because you think about it, it can cause you withdrawal, right? Instead of hanging out with people, you're trying to get home to, get one off, right? Then it says 1 in 3 young adults with a daily porn habit feel down or depressed. 1 in 5 people who consume adult content do it during work hours, risk professional consequences. And of the people who attempt to quit watching porn, 50% do it out of concern for their mental health. So I think that's one danger on the practical side. But I think on the spiritual side, you find yourself doing what Adam and Eve did. Instead of running to God, you find yourself running from God because of guilt and shame. So that guilt and shame can drive a wedge between you and God. Not that God doesn't want you, but because you have built up a wall and you felt like I'm dirty and God doesn't want me, I can't approach him, like Adam and Eve did. So I think that's one of the greatest spiritual consequences. And there are others, of course, because the Bible says that fornication, sexual sins, is the only sin that involves body, soul, and spirit, right? And so it affects us in ways I don't think that we understand. One of the things the Lord dealt with me about a couple of weeks ago was how, of course, we are children of light and how dangerous it is for children of light to participate in dark behaviors.
Right.
And so, when you think about a lot of the ancient pagan gods, a lot of them were really based on sexuality and sexual content. And so it pulls us, pornography pulls us into a type of idolatry, if you will.
Yeah.
Let
Well,
me
there's
go
a
back.
physical danger. There's a physical danger. They say that pornography viewers tend to have problems with premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction because of spending so many years and experiences with unnatural sex acts. So you can break yourself.
Right, right,
You
right.
keep playing with yourself, you're gonna break yourself.
So what do you say? So what do you say? Is this going to shock some listeners because they probably don't know I know this terminology, but remember I'm from Baltimore, so I know a lot.
You
But
from Baltimore.
yeah, I'm from
Baltimore.
Baltimore. I'm from
Baltimore.
yeah. So what do you say to that young person who say, well, if I don't get it off, my ball's going to turn blue?
That
So,
ain't gonna
so,
happen.
so what I'm saying. What do you say to that person? You've heard the con blue ball, right? So, what do
Yeah.
you say to that young person who says, "Yo, if I don't do this, I'm gonna suffer from blue ball"?
Well, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but being a former health and physical education teacher, that's not gonna happen. You go run some laps, man. Do some push-ups. Like my mama used to say, go do some push-ups.
Oh man.
If you rubbing on her too hard, I mean, then something will happen.
No, 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 but I think also while we talk about this conversation, I think a buddy of mine told me that he's a couple years younger than me, and his mother, when he was a teenager, his mother caught him. He grew up in a strong holiness background. His mother caught him masturbating, and the next thing he knew, the doors in his bedroom were gone.
Yeah, yeah. She said,
It's
"You ain't
like,
about to be in here playing with yourself."
yeah.
Chopping that,
You're not gonna be playing
chopping
solo
that
dolo.
wood.
You ain't gonna be playing solo dolo in my house.
Not
So,
in my house.
so I mean, so I think also while we're having this conversation, I think also it's important that parents, youth pastors, mentors, fathers, that we have conversations with young people and not demonize them from coming to us. Because I know a young lady. This was in the 90s. They were in a women's group, and she asked him an honest question about masturbation. A woman, and women don't typically talk about that, but a woman asked that question, and they shunned her.
Mm.
So I think it's important that we are emotionally intelligent enough and spiritually sound enough to have these kinds of conversations with young people because they want to know.
And they
See,
need to
that's what I was
know.
going to say.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to go back to something that Brother Downey talked about, about hiding it, because when you think about it, it's easier for people to talk about alcohol and drug addictions than it is to talk about porn
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel
addiction.
dirty. I feel like you
You
feel
know what I'm saying?
dirty, yeah.
You know. So I mean, why do you think that is though? Why do you think it's like what you were talking about, the shame that's kind of centered around it, Barry, or what?
I think it's partially the shame, but I also think that we have people who haven't come to the dark ages. And I think that people when people don't know how to approach the conversation, they demonize it. Now, that's not to say that porn isn't wrong. Premarital sex, we know that that's not God's will. But I think that you have to be able to talk to people, because if we don't talk to them and they start exploring themselves and they end up coming back with babies and STDs or porn addictions, and then we want to dog them out. Well, I think part of the problem is that instead of learning and becoming conscious of the age and conscious of what's happening, we rather not have the conversation. So we prefer to be ignorant rather than knowledgeable, and that makes us, then we don't have to have the conversation. I think that's one of the issues.
So,
Yeah,
Bo,
that
your
makes sense.
question was, why is it that people are ashamed to admit they have a porn addiction rather than feeling almost comfortable, or you can get help if you're alcoholic on your job? They'll put you through a program and all these different things. That's basically the question, right?
I misunderstood the
Like,
question.
yeah, I was just saying it because it seems like people are more comfortable talking about drug addictions,
Right.
alcohol addictions, but when it comes to like porn addiction, it doesn't seem like a lot of people talk about that,
Right.
or
Yeah.
like to Barry's point, he said, it was brought up in a conversation, and it went left. They went left on her. So
hmm
I was trying to figure out why do you guys feel like, people may have a problem talking about, if they have an addiction to porn.
I think, and this is just my opinion, maybe it's the fact that if you're sitting around and you're saying, I'm addicted to porn or I'm addicted to sex, people might view you as a person with lack of self-control.
Mm.
Um, even if you like to drink or you do drugs, you're you're viewed as a person that doesn't have control, but there's a substance that you're attracted to.
Mm.
So with the sexual aspect, it maybe it's the fact that you just feel like, oh, that person, you just can't control yourself, or
Mm.
you might do something, to someone, rape them or anything like that.
Mm.
So maybe that's the aspect of it, and it's again like Barry mentioned, people are, I wouldn't say in the dark age, but they just put it in the back burner. They don't want to talk about it because it's something that has always been frowned upon. You know.
Yeah, I
From
agree
a
with, and
go ahead.
I agree with Elder Berry too. I think and this again, this is just my thought that a lot of people don't talk about it or don't discuss it because they don't believe it's an addiction, a true addiction.
Mm.
They really don't believe. They like, man, I'm just watching watching a film. I'm touching myself. Like they don't believe that's addiction. No matter what all the facts that you gave, is
hmm
stopping this. Is not you're not doing this. You're not doing that. They still don't believe it because they're not physically hurting anyone.
Mm. That's good.
Yeah.
I think culturally also there's a cultural aspect to it to where if you admit that you have a porn addiction, you're a pervert.
Wow.
hmm
And if you're given that label, then you're not desirable.
Mhm.
I mean, you could be like you said, all the other ones, yeah, we can work with that, we can fix that. But I mean, if you told a woman or women or publicly say that I have a porn addiction, you
Yeah.
become labeled a pervert and it's hands off.
Hands off.
Because
They
you have
perv.
no, yeah, there's nothing that you won't do.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, but I mean, as a woman,
Wow.
you may start to think, "Hey, are
Kids
you
at
are you
home.
a
Yeah.
pedophile? Yeah, and
Pedophile.
all that
Yeah.
yeah,
type of stuff."
it's a good
Or
point.
to the point to where I can't satisfy you because you're addicted to porn. So
Yeah.
all the
hmm
rest we can deal with. An alcoholic and a drug addict can get a woman, but not a pervert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
do it.
I
Wow.
forgot
Do it.
about that. I forgot
That's a
about
very
that
that's a
label.
very good point right
Yeah.
there.
And
Yeah,
then
Yeah.
secondly, if you admit you have a porn addiction, it's assumed that you don't have a sex life,
that's true.
Mm.
which means
hmm
the fellas think that you're addicted to porn because you can't get women.
Wow.
So now there's that could be another stigma placed on you culturally.
That's good.
Yeah, so I think those are two aspects that possibly could be the reason why, people ain't coming out about that.
Wow.
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 Do we think this is just a quick question. Do we think it's viewed the same with the opposite sex? So do we think that porn addiction is viewed the same way that Jamiyo
Mm.
talked about when it comes to women?
Oh, that's a good
That's
question.
a great
I don't
question.
know. I mean,
by
so
their
many
peers or
women.
by us. I probably by their peers, maybe they may be judged, but us, the average man, well, I can't speak for average. A man of the world for sure might see that as a turn on.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a double standard when it comes to
Yeah,
Yeah,
stuff
it's a
like
yeah,
double standard.
yeah,
Or
for
that, or
sure.
she a thought, or she's a
Yeah.
loose, you know. But so
that.
many women online, just posting their little roses. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
watching something while you got your rose? What you doing?
It's- That's,
Or you?
hey, bro, you got a good point because a
Good
brother
point.
can't get on and put any type of
No, no, no.
stuff
You
No.
can't.
he may be using.
You'll be a
Yeah.
It's going to be
pervert.
looked at.
You're
You're a
You'll
perfect.
be a
pervert
Yeah.
or
pervert.
Yeah.
you inadequate or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
Yeah.
and they'll
that's
be
a good point,
investigating
man.
me. Yeah.
That's a
But
really good question.
women are becoming a lot more bold. On Facebook a couple of years
Oh
ago, a
my
young
God.
lady posted on Facebook, she was going out too hard and she broke her toy.
Yeah, it's
She
Mm.
had to replace her toy. She put it on
yeah.
Facebook. I was like, good God.
I mean, I think
Well,
women in general are going harder after
I'm
men.
sorry. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they're sending pictures in DMs. They just
Oh,
trying
bro.
to
Yeah. That's
get with,
true.
and then
That's
it's some
true.
women that are, I'm just talking, smash all of us, and then have a conversation like what,
Straight up.
and
absolutely.
back in the day that would be frowned upon, but now they're more bold with it, I guess,
Yeah.
because of what has
I've got
happened.
I've got a whole video
You got
in my DMs for
videos?
them.
You got
I,
videos?
I had a whole on Facebook.
Mm.
A woman sent me an entire video of her working butt naked.
Wow.
She was
It was
auditioning.
it was unbelievable, man. And hey, here's the interesting thing. She was from Baltimore.
Here you go. Here you
No, I'm just
go.
saying. No, I
Here
just,
you
just thought
go.
about that. I said
Was
that's
that
pretty interesting,
necessary?
man. Hey, man,
Oh
Was that
man.
necessary?
but no, but here's another layer to it, though, right? When you go on her page, man, she's very active in her church.
Oh yeah.
You
But she
you
wants
know
she wants you rep. She trying
That
to she's
was
you could have
auditioning for the
said
reverend.
that you could have said the Atlantic area. You could have said the DMV, but you just had to say Baltimore.
it was just in. I
Baltimore.
just thought about that. I just realized she's in Baltimore, man. She's in Maryland, man. But you're right, man. These women are, this what is it? Women's lib, whatever the case may be. It's kind of gotten out of control at this point to
Yeah.
where, and I think also just with that topic, just the conversation, the narratives that have been created in our community as it relates
Yeah.
to relationships. You
Right.
know, all of us. I mean, there's some good brothers on here tonight, but if you talk to most people, ain't no good brothers out there. You
Right.
know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so women are kind of like, well, I got to do what I got to do. So that kind of leads to them getting a pass for certain behaviors that or wouldn't be accepted in our particular demographic.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's a really good combo, man.
I
Uh,
want to circle back to I think it's a question P asked at the beginning about why we've come to this place, and I think it all couple things, but I think one of the main things is that discipline and self-denial are no longer part of our culture. It's all, back in the day, we were community driven. And so, now it's really about self-gratification. So I think that's a major part of it.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah.
but it's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking earlier and about this message of grace that has kind of come to the forefront in the church, where it does not really talk so much about discipline and standards. We don't talk about that other side of being people of faith. And obviously, whether you're a person of faith or not, that discipline, even psychologists, talk about the damages of porn addiction and stuff like that, which to me just proves what the Bible says and what we
Yes,
believe.
sir.
However, when it comes to, just how we approach faith from church standpoint, because we don't want to be labeled as legalistic or something like that, I think sometimes we can overly rely on grace, not understanding that grace also produces a strength to be able to overcome some of those things too.
Yes,
So
sir.
it was funny you mentioned that, man,
Yeah.
about that. So
I,
I ain't gonna go ahead.
I was yesterday. I'm not sure why I was thinking about it. I'm always thinking, but I was thinking about how that in order for us to really preach a balanced gospel in this 21st century, I think there are three things that we need to revisit. We need to revisit our eschatological stance, that is the coming of Jesus. We need to revisit a theology of suffering, because in Christ, the Bible says you're going to in this world you will have trouble, right? But then also we have to revisit the whole idea of self-denial, because that was one of the premises Jesus based his followership on. So I think that if we're going to return to the fundamentals of faith and start preaching a sound theology, we're going to have to revisit those three things. Otherwise, we are we are we have turned the gospel into propaganda rather than a message of the kingdom.
Mm.
Yeah.
Barry, I think and what happens is in that instance sometimes is that addiction, whether it be sex addiction, porn addiction, or so forth. The church demonizes those who come for help, so to speak, when they're coming to the altar, when they're coming with their sins. Um, there's not a message of grace everywhere. Thank God I belong to a church that does preach a message of grace. But if we're demonizing and telling them, you going to hell today. I mean, I'm not saying you hide the truth.
Right.
But the lack of grace in how we approach those who are dealing with things, to give them a place where they can be transparent and not necessarily be judged, corrected but not judged, in a safe place.
Yeah.
Especially at a young age where culturally it's telling you that you're not doing anything wrong, and it feels good.
Right.
So I need somebody to explain to me why what feels good ain't good.
Yeah.
And it's a good point. When you were speaking, Jamiyo, the word that came to my mind was just love.
Absolutely.
Love covers. Love covers a multitude of sins, man. So I think you're right. Because we're not having these healthy conversations, that we're not speaking truth in love, that we're not, using grace to, hey, come, it's a safe place for you to bring this here. We don't love you anyway, but because if there's no safe place, people are not going to share, period.
That's true.
And so I think that's, when we think about God and what faith is supposed to look like, it's a faith of love. But we tend to, be such sticklers and so rigid. And I think a lot of times is because it's a projection too, because many people who are adamant and big time advocates against certain behaviors, they're actually struggling with it themselves.
True
And
that.
they don't have an outlet. So let me demonize you, because I don't feel good about me, and demonize that. So I think you're absolutely right as far as, not just creating an environment where we can have healthy conversations about it has definitely hurt us big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one danger. Is one danger I wanted to make aware of too. It's pornography in marriage, and we didn't speak about that too much. But there was a couple of statistics that's saying that couples that watch pornography together was 70% more likely to separate. Yeah. And then as a man, when you're watching these pornography videos and things of this nature, you put that expectation on your wife, and that can lead to conversations, arguments, and ultimately, separation. So I think that's another danger, is possibly destroying the marriage because of the level of expectation that you might have on your sexual partner, vice versa, man or woman.
That's a great call out, because in marriages, a lot of times, especially people as Christians, we will use that undefiled verse in a way and twist it to make it fit what we want to do. And so when you hear statistics like that and understanding like, hey, this can still ruin your marriage. I think it's important to share. So that's a great call out.
Yeah.
Thoughts, fellas?
Yeah. I mean, porn is dangerous. It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
And just kind of reading, going through this research of this particular topic, I didn't realize how dangerous it was and how common it was to people at certain ages. Of course, once you give your life to Christ, you try to renew your mind daily. So you fight different scenarios every day to walk the walk. But it's a lot of people who are visiting these sites every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that to kind of open my eyes to it.
Yeah. I didn't have a final thought, but now I do. Um, and that final thought is find somebody you can talk to that's going to love you but challenge you. I think that that's important, that you have somebody that you can trust with your secrets, but still hold you accountable. I think men and women need a safe place, but women most likely to have that because women are most likely to share. But men often we're taught to hide our vulnerabilities. And so I would say to men to find somebody where you can divulge, somebody who's ethically sound, spiritually sound, but yet is going to love you to a place of wholeness, you know. So that would be my recommendation. And if you want prayer, you can email any of us and we'll pray for you for sure. And you know, we're because we all have a past, we're not going to judge you. We're gonna pray with you. So if you need prayer, you can email me at bjelliott@simplybje.com. That's bjelliott@simplybje.com, and I will definitely pray for you.
So, and that's kind of just to underscore what you were saying, Barry. That's what I meant. What I was speaking to as it relates to grace. There's two sides of it.
Yeah,
You know, one side of grace is willing to accept you, a safe place for you, but it also challenges you to go out and live that standard. You know, so it's both sides to it. So I think that is totally appropriate. So, and just to put my email out there for listeners as well, you can email me at info at therealbowknows.com. If you ever need, prayer or just need to talk or whatever, no judgment, info at the real Bo knows. Bo is just BO, the country way. Therealbowknows.com is cool. So before we end, just like we did our last episode, in case you missed it, we definitely want to give our guest. First of all, I want to thank you, brothers, for coming on, man,
absolutely.
and talking
Yes,
about
thank
this
you.
topic. I think it takes a lot of courage for us to have these type of conversations, to be vulnerable, man. So we don't take that lightly, man. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your stories, man. We certainly appreciate it. So we want to give you guys space to just highlight what you got going on. I'm looking at Jamiyo first. So if you can tell people about what you got going on, your businesses and stuff like that, how they can access you on social media, let our listeners know how they can connect with you.
Great, man. I appreciate you. First and foremost, thank you for the opportunity to join you great gentlemen. This is not just necessary, it's therapeutic. It's therapeutic as well. What you, as my final thought, so to speak, would be what you will realize that when you are able to be transparent with like-minded individuals, you will find out that you're not the only person who has struggled with or who has gone through that. And when you find that safe place and that safe person to discuss it, you will find out that you have more in common and there are some solutions there. Um, but business wise, I am a licensed broker of real estate in the state of North Carolina and South Carolina. So I'm able to assist you in your residential and commercial needs for real estate buying or selling. I also have the capacity to take on other real estate professionals under my brokerage as well. Secondly, I am a licensed charter boat captain. I run a charter business, Fish for Real Charters, out of Murrells Inlet, which is right outside of Myrtle Beach. I happen to be the only Black captain in at least a 50-mile radius.
Wow.
So I thank God for that opportunity to walk into a space that has not been ventured into by many of us. I'm not saying I'm the first, but I am the only current. So I thank God for that space. So you can reach me on any of the socials. Jamiyo, Aaron, the businesses are DreamWorks Realty Incorporated and Fish for Real Charters. Thank you, guys.
I'll piggyback on Jamiyo. First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity. I do not take it lightly. Anytime anybody wants to ask me for my opinion, I definitely don't take it lightly because I do understand I'm not so great. But we thank God for this opportunity, and I just want to encourage you three brothers and let you know that what you're doing is needed in the kingdom and it's needed in the world at large. So keep doing what you're doing. Don't let numbers drive you, and we'll always be here to support. As far as what I got going on, I'm going to always push and advocate for my wife. She is Four Hearts Connections on everything. If you have a child or you know of a child or know of any children with autism, listen, I'm telling you, she is the greatest resource you will ever have. And the reason I can say that is because we have a child with autism. So if you want to understand that you want your child to thrive, reach out Four Hearts Connections and anything Four Hearts you'll find us on. So on all platforms. Thank you guys.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Well, to our listeners, this concludes another episode of The Lifeline with your hosts, Barry J. Elliott, Lindsberg Petway, and yours truly, Bo Powell. Don't forget to check us out at www.simplybje.com/The Lifeline and on social media. Look, we're on a mission. We want to bring light and life into your household, so join us and let us hear your feedback because it's all about bringing life to you on The Lifeline. Y'all take care.
Thank you for listening to today's episode with host, business expert, and life coach Bo Powell, social media influencer and entrepreneur Lindsberg Petway, and leadership coach and mental health advocate Barry J. Elliott. Join us next week for another impactful conversation on The Lifeline. God bless.